And before I go into that very important message, there was this image that was forcing its way on just before we took that break. And this is the image of, a collapsed classroom in the far north where Kawai Yegejibi was asking for money to build. This is the kind of thing that we are running away from.
Oh yeah.
You look at the kind of material that was first of all used in building that classroom. Suffice it to say that in a lot of these places in the far north of La République du Cameroon, what they do is the schools usually don't resume in September at all. And you need to know this because when you hear them come and they are making noise in Ambazonia, when we say schools resumption will be pushed by 2 weeks or sometimes by 3 weeks, they make a lot of noise as if it's something that doesn't happen anywhere else, and give the impression that we are not interested in the education of our children. Whereas in effect, in a lot of localities in the far north of La République du Cameroon, pupils don't go to school in September. Why? Because the classrooms are constructed after millet has been harvested, because they will use the millet stems that have been harvested in constructing the classrooms. So they will wait until the harvest of the millet. So a lot of those children usually go to school end of October or beginning of November, and they will end up writing the same exams at the same time like every other person all over the national territory. Because millet has got to be harvested before they now use the millet stems to construct makeshift classrooms like the one that you have seen there, collapsing on pupils during studies. That is the La République du Cameroon. That's the kind of country that is insisting at all costs to continue to keep us in subjugation with them. If you stay on with La République du Cameroon, this is the kind of fate that awaits you and me. God forbid, because we can't. Because we can't. Okay? So now, something happened, just a few days ago, that has rattled almost everyone. You look at this image, very interesting. The folk you are seeing there is Joseph Anderson Lay. Of course, Joseph Anderson Lay, who is seated there, ostensibly Minister of the Public Service and Administrative Reform. Joseph Anderson Lay was a journalist. He's a journalist by training. He worked at CTV for several years and was a presidential reporter for a good lot of those years. Of course, he hails from Nanga, where the First Lady of La République du Cameroon comes from. And so Joseph Anderson Lay, by dint of that, first of all became Deputy Director of the Civil Cabinet, and then they gave him Minister of Public Service and Administrative Reform. So this is Joseph Anderson Lay, you see in that picture, tweeting by himself to say he was so excited to receive the Colonial Senior Divisional Officer for Manu, named Boniface Awumfak, and the mayor of Mamfe Tabenchong Ashu. Of course, we have not forgotten Tabenchong Ashu, who organized the roasting to death of people in some locality there in Mamfe when they were going there to celebrate the anniversary of their court called CPDM, and he had gone around trying to announce to his fellow friends to leave the place before the disaster will descend. Of course, we all know him. And then he says they were coming to present the gratitude, the happiness, the joy of the people of Eshobi village in Manu. They were coming to extend special thanks through him, the Minister of the Public Service, to the Prime Minister of the Republic, Chief Dr. John Gute Joseph, and to the President, Mr. Paul Biya, for the admission of one of their sons, Ojong M.E., into Enam. My goodness, Jesus Christ of Timbuktu, my people of Amazonia, please, let me say it like we used to say it. I say, I beg unakam so. Hey, this is amazing. What is the mode of entry into ENAM, competitive public examination. Yes, a competitive public examination where you put in your candidature. You meet several candidates from across the country. You compete first for a written exam. If you pass that written exam, your name comes out on the short list. And then you go for orals. And these orals, at the end of these orals, not everybody who was on the short list will make it. They now take those who are supposed to have made it, and the list is published by order of merit. Hey, did someone hear me well? I said the list is published by order of merit, which means the only way you get into ENAM normally, in normal circumstances, should be that you are intelligent, you sat through a competitive public entrance examination, you competed, you performed better than every other person that came after you, and you won your position to enter that school. How does the SDO, the mayor, how do they come into being? How does the head of state, the prime minister, come into your ability to get into ENAM? We have said this thing 1 million times, that all those public exams are charades, and people doubted. This is Joseph Anderson Lay showing it to the whole wide world, telling the whole wide world that that society is rotten beyond imagination, and that people only get access into those professional schools through this kind of methods. So, implication here, the SDO, the mayor, and others had gone to see Mr. Joseph Anderson Lay to solicit that they should put this young man's name, Mr. Ojong ME. Now the whole world knows that you have not gone into ENAM because you passed an exam. Even your children, because you may already have children, but if you don't have yet, when they grow up, they will watch this outing. They will read this tweet. They will see for themselves that you never passed to enter ENAM, that you were politically injected, politically transmitted into ENAM. And this is an embarrassment in a country worthy of the calling, in a country that calls itself a state of law, in a country that says they have regulations that they respect. This kind of thing should already have led to the resignation of Mr. Joseph Anderson Lay. But hell no, it can't happen, because that is exactly how things are happening there. What he has done is ignorantly bringing to the global community a confirmation of exactly what kind of state La République du Cameroon is. A banana state. Look at them there. Oh my goodness. This is such a shame. And I think the candidate himself is standing there in the last picture that you see below there. The so-called Ojong ME is standing there. Hall of shame. Very embarrassing. Well, but folks, let us now move to the United Nations, where the General Assembly was taking place in New York. This week, or a few days ago, talking about the situation in Israel. And you recall that way back in 2016, Mr. Mo Ibrahim, if you don't know him, just go onto Google. Type Mo Ibrahim. Mo is M-O. And then Ibrahim. Of course, I-B-R-A-I-H-I-M. Mo Ibrahim. In 2016 on CNN, he said, the situation in the Middle East between Palestine and Israel can only be resolved by establishing a two-state solution. And then he continued. He said the situation in Cameroon, between La République du Cameroon and Southern Cameroons, can only be resolved by a two-state solution. That was Mo Ibrahim. In 2016 on CNN. You can go onto the web and search. Of course, eventually I'll try to get that soundbite here on this platform that you should watch for yourself. And so this past few days, Mr. Philemon Yang voiced the same thing himself at the United Nations. Philemon Yang is very clear and very unequivocal. Here, is it his position or the position of La République du Cameroon? Because Israel does not want to hear about two-state solution. They don't want to hear. La République du Cameroon has avoided vote on anything in the United Nations concerning the situation in Israel. Now, they fought so hard to have Philemon Yang be the president of the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly. They forgot that with it comes responsibilities that will have nothing to do with the official position of La République du Cameroon. But he will transmit them. And that is why I'm not telling Mr. Young Philemon what is good for the goose is good for the gander. This is what Young Philemon says. Only a two-state solution can end the cycle of violence and instability, ensuring peace, security, and dignity for both Palestinians and Israelis. President of the 79th UN General Assembly, Philemon Yang. This thing was captured on France 24. So, Mr. Philemon Yang, take off both Palestinians and Israelis and put both Cameroonians and Southern Cameroonians. Both the people of La République du Cameroon and those of the Southern Cameroons. So you see what it is. This is exactly how when a pot boils too much, it dirties itself. Hear from Philemon Yang that he believes that the kind of situation that is going on in Ambazonia, which is going on in the Middle East, can only be resolved by a two-state solution. But while back home, he runs his mouth about a certain one and indivisible. Those are the kind of people we are dealing with. But the interesting thing is, it is coming out of their mouths. It will come until it gets there. We will end this conversation with this. You must have seen a lot of this on social media. Breaking news. Écho de Paris. Les médecins demandent à Paul Biya, ou lui demandent d'aller dans son pays. Mais la famille et les proches refusent espérant un dernier miracle concerning Paul Biya. Let me just speak very little on this and we dump it because we don't have to spend a lot of our time on this trash. I'll tell you something. We have noticed since 2004 that when Mr. Paul Biya knows that the chaos, the level of misery, and the level of disappointment in his people regarding his tenure is getting to a certain height, he uses an ancient trick that some of the African continent have usually used to change the discussion and raise his popularity. He did that in 2004 to good effect by himself and his apparatchiks sending out messages and, you know, to give the impression that he was dead. Just so that he will suddenly reappear and there will be massive celebrations and everything, and it will be like he is, you know, he is a demigod, a Superman, and things like that. He had done that before and he did it again. I guess sometimes that was in 2018, 2017, it was 2018 when there was going to be a presidential election. It was even in 2018. That was in 2018. Even my platform was affected because we have people that generally give us trusted information from those circles. Those people were drafted in and they sent us that information with all the assurance. Of course, a journalist is just as good as his sources. If your source makes a mistake, if you're not careful, you lose credibility because you say something that ends up being unverified. And so the sources, people who trusted so much, and they knew them, that this could be people who give up, and they made them, kept them deliberately out of the neutral and made them believe that it was the real thing that Mr. Paul Biya was dead. And the sense of, we broadcasted, Mr. Paul Biya was dead, or whatever is happening now, that was during COVID, or it was now the French ambassador running Cameroon, it was this, I'm even saying it was 2018, no, it was 2020. Oh, it's now the ambassador of France running Cameroon and all of those things. No, we need to see him. And in the end, he will just show up. Of course, they have started this again because Mr. Paul Biya wants to be candidate for president in 2025. So this round of it is not going because finally we know the trick. Finally, we have understood the trick. So my people of Amazonia, we should ignore all of this trash. Whether he's alive or he's dead, we have a liberation movement to prosecute. And we have to focus all our attention on ensuring that we kick La République du Cameroon out of our territory. Hey folks, let me begin, or let me kick off the extension of that sweet and interesting message of Happy Independence Day to each and every one of us. I will definitely be back here as we, break the day this 1st October to celebrate the independence of our territory. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this production, and share the link as much as you can. Let's get this information to as many people as possible. Oh, by the way, apologies, I've just gotten, thank you for that reminder. I think I was looking at the time and I was almost skipping, because I said there were updates regarding the situation of the arrest of Comrade Ayaba. Professor Carlson Anyangwe sent a contribution here, a very important contribution that I accepted to share here, where he says, I also understand that French Cameroon has requested the extradition of Comrade Ayaba because the alleged crime, they say, was committed in its territory of La République du Cameroon, as a claim. And he says, this is sheer ignorance and stupidity. I'm just carrying exactly what Professor Carlson Anyangwe says. So he says, primo, French Cameroon cannot request extradition because no extradition treaty or surrender scheme exists between Norway and French Cameroon. Of course, that is verified. There is no extradition treaty between the two countries. And Norway is not a shithole country like Nigeria. I call it shithole, courtesy of whoever used it. It's not a rogue country like Nigeria that ignored even the fact that they have no extradition territory with La République du Cameroon, that ignored the international law of non-refoulement and sent Comrade Sisi Kwayuk Tabe and the others to Cameroon. And Professor Carlson continues, and as I have already pointed out, even if such a treaty existed between both countries, extradition will be denied because French Cameroon notoriously practices torture officially and maintains capital punishment as a penalty in its criminal justice system. Capital punishment here will mean the death penalty. Of course, they still have the death penalty in their criminal justice system. And number two, that's segundo. The crime alleged to have been committed by Ayaba is the inchoate offense of incitement, not a substantive offense. It is incitement, not that he was on the ground and did it himself. He didn't commit himself, but that he incited. So it's an inchoate offense of incitement, not a substantive offense. Tertio, the alleged crime of incitement was allegedly committed in Norway. So the alleged crime, so that is where I said before here. You recall in my last outing I said here that Norway will be examining if Comrade Ayaba broke Norwegian laws. And if he broke Norwegian laws, he will be tried definitely in Norway, and he could be sentenced in Norway. He could either serve his prison term in Norway or be sent back to his country, Germany, to go and serve his prison term there. So Professor Carlson Anyangwe says, which is why Norway exercised jurisdiction to arrest the suspect. Norway and not French Cameroon is the place of commission of that supposed offense, the offense of incitement. Comrade Ayaba was not in La République du Cameroon, seated in La République du Cameroon, and committing the offense of incitement, the inchoate offense of incitement. I guess we continue to understand these facets. And then, 4, he says, the armed conflict between French Cameroon and Amazonia is taking place in the territory and not in the adjacent territory of French Cameroon. Again, the violence, the acts proper that have resulted from this incitement are not happening on the territory of La République du Cameroon. They are happening on the territory of the southern Cameroons. That's in the event they happened. Because, like I said, this is a matter that is before jurisdictions. So I can't be taking positions or saying it happened or it did not happen. They have the instruments to determine whether it happened or not me on this platform. So The acts proper that are alleged to have been committed as a result of that incitement are alleged to have been committed on the territory of the Southern Cameroons, not on the territory of La République du Cameroun. So Professor Carlson Anyangwe says it follows that the substantive crime against humanity, which Cho Ayaba is alleged to have incited, could presumably have taken place only in the territory of Ambazonia, the boundaries of which are defined and delimited by international boundary treaties and well demarcated by boundary pillars on the ground. You see why I said this is a hot potato? Because La République du Cameroun, at the end of the day, is an occupational force in the Southern Cameroon's territory. Why is it an occupational force? Because legally, La République du Cameroun has no claim over the territory of the Southern Cameroons, because there has never been any treaty of union between La République du Cameroun and the people of the Southern Cameroons. This is clear. It's as clear as death. And of course, because also of an international instrument that La République du Cameroun signed up to, that African countries recognize their boundaries to be those acquired at the time of achieving independence. And La République du Cameroun achieved its independence on the 1st of January 1960. At that time, Southern Cameroons had nothing to do with La République du Cameroun. We were a separate territory. Don't forget this. And so Professor Carlson Anyangwe says, despite cartographical and political misrepresentations and distortions, the lawful territory of French Cameroon has never included, does not include, and will never include the territory of Ambazonia. So factually, French Cameroon is in armed colonial occupation of Ambazonia, but its claim to the territory of Ambazonia has for decades always been contested on sound grounds and continues to be rightfully rejected by the people of Ambazonia, in whom sovereignty to their territory legally and unquestionably lies. That is a contribution from Professor Carlson Anyangwe regarding the situation of the arrest of Comrade Cho Ayaba. Like I said, this is a developing story, and there is a lot more that's going to be coming as a result of that arrest. And I said, La République du Cameroun will soon find that Chachambe Barrister Salai Emmanuel will become a comrade. I want to thank everyone for watching this show. Please share the link, and as I said, I will be back here as we look forward to celebrating our Independence Day in pomp and ceremony this 1st of October 2024. Thank you everyone, thank you everyone, thank you for being part of this show. To God be all the glory.